Hello, friends. Uh, Let us continue um, our discussion of uh, the Romantic poetry in the history of English literature. And today I am going to talk about another very beautiful poem by um, John Keats. In the last video, I talked about Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. Now, here is John Keats, who also belongs to the second generation of romantic poets, that is P.B. Shelley, Lord Byron, and John Keats. Keats also died very young. He died of tuberculosis, but many critics feel that tuberculosis was not the only reason of his untimely death. You might be shocked to know that uh, Keats's poetry in his lifetime was severely criticized by the critics of that time, and later on, Keats was revived as one of the greatest poets, second only to William Shakespeare. But during his life, his poetry faced harsh criticism, severe criticism, and that was again one of the reasons of his untimely death, according to some critics. There is also the tragedy in love. His love was rejected by the girl whom he loved, that is Fanny Brown. So these are all the reasons: tuberculosis and the harsh criticism and rejection in love, that made him succumb, that made him surrender in front of death before the time in a very young age. So Keats is another great poet of English literature, not only of the Romantic period. As you know, Romanticism is the golden age in the history of English poetry after Elizabethan poetry. This Romanticism spans from 1798 with the publication of lyrical ballads. Is considered as the commencement, as the beginning of Romanticism. Lyrical ballads was the joint venture, was the collection of poetry jointly published, written by two great romantics of the first generation, that is William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. And this period extends up to 1830. That is again the beginning of the Victorian age in the history of English literature. So John Keats is another great poet that we are going to study, with special reference to another beautiful ode, that is Ode to Autumn. Uh, Before we start reading the poem, let me explain the cycle of the season in the Western seasons in the Western Hemisphere. The year is divided into four seasons: spring season, then summer season, autumn, and winter. Spring is the most beautiful season of the year. Everything is beautiful. There are leaves, there are birds, and everything is flowering. And in the summer season is of the ripeness, of the fruitfulness, and there is then the autumn season, when leaves start shedding, leaves start falling from the trees. And then comes the winter season. Of course, it is in the western hemisphere that I'm talking about. And in the winter season, only snow is there on the earth. The earth is covered with snow, and severe cold is there, and nothing can grow in the soil in this season. So this is the cycle of seasons, particularly in the western hemisphere, in the western part of the globe. Generally, in poetry, there is the celebration of the spring season, because it is the most beautiful of the seasons during the year. Here, John Keats celebrates the beauty of autumn, and this is something unusual. But Keats, he was basically a poet of nature, basically a romantic poet, and for him, each and everything has its own beauty. So he paints a picture of the beauty of the autumn season in this ode, Ode to Autumn. So this ode is addressed to the autumn season. And here are, as far as the structure of this poem is concerned, the poem is is composed of 33 lines, and which are divided into three stanzas of 11 lines each. Okay, so this is a poem of three stanzas comprised of, made up of 11 lines each, and there is the a rhyming pattern that is somehow irregular. Again, um, another important feature of this sonnet is that it is it runs, or it is structured like a classical sonnet, because in a classical sorry in a classical ode, a classical ode is made up of three types of stanzas, that is strophe, antistrophe, and epode. It is a beautiful combination of the classical as well as the English form of ode. And as the title suggests, it is addressed to the autumn season, and it is the celebration of the autumn season, the beauty of the autumn season. The first stanza describes autumn season doing its job. It is the personification. What happens in the autumn season? In the second stanza, the autumn season is presented in the form of a woman who is doing this, who is doing that at various moments, at various times. And the third stanza takes the reader towards the acceptance of the end, not only of the autumn season and the beginning of the winter, but it is again the poet turns towards death. So death is a major aspect of the third stanza of this poem. And one very important aspect, fact about this poem is that this poem is the last uh, major poem of Keats's career as a poet. So again, it's a very strange thing that because he could not live life earn livelihood with the help of poetry, because he had so many responsibilities, other priorities, and for that reason he had to stop writing poetry during this period. And after that he died in 1821. He wrote this poem on 19th September 1819, and this is considered as the last uh, poem of John Keats, the great romantic poet. So, all these things are beautifully combined together in this beautiful poem. In the third stanza, the poet is talking about death, and this poem marks the end of his career, the death of John Keats as a poet as well. So let us read the stanza line by line, and I will try to interpret, I will try to explain it line by line. The first stanza: season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. Autumn is described in a very beautiful way, right from the very first line. Season of mists, the speaker says, you are the season of mists, you are the season of fog, and mellow fruitfulness. Mellow, that is smooth and ripe, pleasant in smell and taste. Mellow fruitfulness. So you can find this alliteration: season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. The consonants like so and mo are repeated, and they create a beautiful rhythm harmony in this line. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. So autumn is considered as the season of fruitfulness. Okay. Close bosom friend of the maturing sun. Autumn is presented as the close friend, good friend. Bosom friend means a very good friend of the maturing sun. Sun becomes more and more mature in the autumn season. Conspiring with him how to load and bless. Conspire means to make secret plans with somebody. Conspiring with him. So here autumn is conspiring, making secret plans with the sun. Conspiring with him, so personification. Autumn is considered as a human being. Sun is also considered as a is also given attributed the human qualities. So here is another figure of speech in the second and third line of uh, the first stanza, that is personification. Here the season autumn is presented as making secret plans with uh, the sun. And what are these plans for? Conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run. So with the help of the sun, its warmth, the autumn season gives a ripeness to the fruits. It makes the vines full of fruits. Vines, the climbing plants. With fruit, the vines that are there on the thatch eaves, that are running on the thatch eaves. Thatch is the roof made from the straw. Okay, dried straw, dried grass. and eaves is the part of the roof that extend beyond the walls. So these are the thatch eaves, and on those thatch eaves are running the climbing plants, that is the vines. And in the autumn season, these vines are loaded with the fruits. So this is again the beauty of the autumn season. To bend with apples the mossed cottage trees. In the next line of this stanza comes the image of the cottage trees, the trees near cottages full of the apple trees, loaded with apple trees, and that there are so many apples that the trees are bending. The trees have gone heavy with the apples on the mossed, that is covered with the moss shevar, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the core. And this autumn season fills all the fruits to the core with ripeness. There, the fruits become fleshy, the fruits become more mature and sweet. And who gives all these properties, qualities to those fruits? The autumn season. To swell the gourd, then there are the examples of the gourd, the fruits with that is having fleshy that are fleshy inside, and there is a hard covering outside. um, the gourd family fruits. To swell the gourd, bhopra, kaddu, those fruits. To swell the gourd and plump again, uh, plumpness, that is the sweet flesh of the fruits. Plump the hazel shells, hazelnuts, so they also become ripe with a sweet kernel. Again the plump of the fruits with a sweet kernel to set budding more. Not only the fruits are ripened, but again there are more and more buds, and so that there are more and more flowers, and still more latter flowers for the bees, and for whom autumn is preparing these buds and flowers for the bees as well. Look at the imagery, look at all the images from the nature gathered here. The cottage trees, the thatch, the vines, and the gourds that have been sown, or the hazelnuts which have gone plump, which have gone sweet. There are flowers for the bees, okay, the honeybees, and still more latter flowers for the bees. Now latter flowers for the bees, this is a reference to the latter part of the autumn season. Okay, now look at the movement of the season. And still more latter flowers for the bees. Latter flower means it is the latter part of the autumn season. It is not the beginning of the autumn season, it is the advanced stage of the autumn season. Latter flowers for the bees until they think warm days will never cease. Cease, C-E-A-S-E. Cease means stop. So the flowers are so full with the honey that that the bees start thinking that the warm days, these happy days will remain forever. These are forever, eternal, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has overbrimmed their clammy cells. Because in the summer season, which comes earlier than the autumn season, before the autumn season, overbrimmed, made something full till the age, towards the age. For summer has overbrimmed, means it is full with the honey, their clammy cells, clammy, damp and sticky ulcer having moisture. Okay, the cells of the bees. So these are all the images that describe the beauty of the autumn season in the first stanza. Now let us turn to the second stanza. So in the first stanza, the speaker presents autumn season doing its jobs. Various various duties of the autumn season. And what are those? It makes the fruits ripe, sweet, smooth and fleshy, and there are various images that prove this. Okay, the goat, the apple trees, the apple tree bending with the load of the apples, etc. And the bees, they are thinking that this autumn will remain forever, and that these happy days will remain forever because their cells is full with honey, is full with the nectar from the flower. So this is all the contribution of the autumn season. Now the second stanza: who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? Personification. So there is a question. So he says, there is nobody that has not seen you amid your store. Amid, in the middle of something. And store is the large collection of something. So here in this stanza, this autumn season is described as a woman doing her job. Who hath not seen thee? Thee means you. That is the autumn season. That you have been seen by many people doing something here and something there. Sometimes whoever seeks abroad, far and wide, here and there, everywhere, that kind of thing. Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find. Means sometimes whoever is wandering here and there at places, he or she may find you, the woman, beautiful woman, that is the autumn season, doing something or the other. The sitting careless on a granary floor. Now look at the image. Here autumn is personified as a woman sitting on the floor of a granary. Granary, the storage of the grains. Dhanyacha kothar. The sitting careless on a granary floor. So here the autumn season as a woman is sitting on the floor of a granary. Beautiful image. Thy hair soft lifted by the clammy wind. And clammy wind. Again, clammy is an adjective used for the weather also. Damp kind of weather is there. And because of those winds in the autumn season, the hair of that woman, they are getting lifted slightly. Okay. Or on a half reaped furrow, sound asleep. Or this woman, that is autumn season, presented as a woman, can be seen can be seen sleeping soundly on a half reaped furrow. Furrow is the marks of the plow, the trenches made by the plow, नांगरामुळे जे जमिनीमध्ये पुन्हा उमटतात marks. So these are the furrow and half reaped. Now the reaping is going on, the harvesting is going on, and in the middle of that harvesting, that process, this woman is sleeping on a furrow, that is in the field. Drowsed, and she's feeling sleepy. Why? She's feeling intoxicated with the fume of poppies, with the scent, with the vaporous smell of the poppies. Poppy are the what kind of flowers? And the plants are used for making drugs like, oh, the opium flowers. Okay, so they have a particular sweet smell that is intoxicating, and because of that smell, might be this woman autumn season is feeling drowsy, is feeling sleepy, is feeling rather unconscious. While thy hook spares the next swath. uh, Swad is the grass cut, or the crop that is cut half, and half is remaining in the field. Spares the next swad, and all its, now the this woman autumn is personified, is presented as cutting the grains, as harvesting in the field. Spares the next swath and all its twined flowers, and all the attached flowers, they are also there. And sometimes like a gleaner, sometimes this autumn season can be seen lingering, can be seen moving among the fields like a gleaner. Gleaner is somebody gathering or collecting the crops, collecting the harvest, remaining part of the harvest. Sometimes like a gleaner, thou dost keep, thou does keep, you keep steady thy laden head across a brook. And sometimes you might be seen by the side of a stream, by the side of a brook, Uda. Thy laden head, thy burdened head, thy heavy head, that is heavy, burdened with so much of work. So here the autumn season is described as a busy woman, or by a cider press. Now here by means by the side of something, or this woman, the autumn season in the form of the autumn season in the form of the woman can be seen standing by the side of a cider press. Now cider is a fermented kind of drink made from apple juice. Okay, and cider press is the press, the instrument in which the apples are crushed to make this drink, that is the cider. It is an alcoholic drink. So sometimes this woman can be seen busy by the side of a cider press, with patient look, with a look that is look of patience, look of tolerance in her eyes. So she is very busy. Thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours, and oozings, the falling drops of that cider falling from the press. So she is watching that oozing, that drop by drop falling of the apple juice from the cider press. So here in the second stanza, Keats presents autumn in the form of a woman, and with the help of beautiful images from nature, here autumn is seen, autumn is presented as doing something or the other, and having its own beauty. Now the last stanza, in the again the third stanza also, uh, the third stanza also begins with a question like the second stanza, but this time the poem changes its mood uh, towards something serious, because the speaker here takes us towards the major theme of the last stanza, that is the end of the season, as well as the end of life and the approaching death. Where are the songs of spring? Where are they? So he says, where are the songs of spring? Because generally, spring season is considered as the most beautiful season, and so many poets are there. They celebrate the beauty of the spring season. They sing the songs of the spring season, and he says, where are the songs of the spring? They have gone away. Where are they? And he says in the second stanza, he addresses the autumn season. He says, forget about the songs of the spring, because you have your own songs. Think not of them. Don't think about the beauty and the songs of the spring season. Thou hast thy music too. You have your own music. you also have your own music, songs of the autumn season. You also are very beautiful. So forget about the beauty of the spring and the songs of the spring season. Think not of them. Thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds, barred, hmm, entry prevented, blocked. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day. There are clouds and they make the day shining, glowing, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Stubble plains. Stubble, the half part of the crop that still remains in the field. Okay. In fact, this poem, mm, while writing this poem, Keats was inspired by uh, one such stubble fields, and he had suddenly realized the beauty of the stubble field, the stubble plain, that is the field um, where harvest is done, but still the crop, the part of the crop remains there, the stubble. Okay. And touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. So the clouds and the sunshine that gives the plains, the stubble plains, that field, um, a rare kind of beauty. And everywhere is spread a shade of the rose, a rosy shade, a rosy hue is spread there, and it's looking very, very beautiful. Suddenly the next line makes the reader serious, with the mention of the wailful, sorrowful choir singing of the gnats, insects that come out, especially in the twilight, in the evening, and in the night, and they start making their sounds, and as if it seems that they are mourning something, they are lamenting something. Okay, so this is a reference uh, towards the death or the end of the season. Then, in a wailful choir, and suddenly in this beautiful atmosphere, there comes the moaning, lamenting sound of the gnats, the insects. Then, in a wailful choir, the small gnats mourn, mourn, among the river shallows, and these gnats are there among the willow trees. Sallows are the willow trees. Willow trees are especially a very green kind of tree, that is forever green, always green, and that is typically found near the water. So the rivers shallows borne aloft. They are carried in the air. Okay. Or sinking as the light wind leaves or dies. So these gnats come out with the winds, and they are carried aloft. Okay, because of the flowing wind. And full grown lambs, and again there is another sound of lament, that is the bleating of the lambs. Lamb is the young sheep. And full grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bone, hilly, of the hill area full of hills. And bone, bourn, is the small brook or small stream in the hilly area. So from those small streams there comes the sound of the lambs bleating, gnats moaning and lambs bleating. So again, these references make make the mood of the poem suddenly serious. Hedge crickets sing. Hedge is the bush boundary. Okay, there are various the fence made by the bush. Okay, hedge crickets. Crickets are again the insects that like grasshoppers that are found on the these bush or these plants at the boundaries. Hedge crickets singing. So these those insects, those crickets, they are also singing their songs. So these are the songs of the autumn season. So this stanza begins with the question, where are the songs of the spring, and forget them because you have your own music. And what kind of music is there in the autumn season? It is the music of the gnats mooning in the evening time. It is the music of the lambs bleating. It is the music of the hedge crickets singing. And now with treble soft, treble three times, threefold, soft, the red breast whistles. There is the music of the red breast. It's a kind of small bird having red breast. It is also, sometimes it is also known as the robin bird. Okay, the red breast whistles. So there is also the song of the red breast whistling. So this is the music of the autumn season. The redbreast whistles from a garden croft. Croft is the farm. Okay. So the redbreast is also whistling. It is also making its own music. And gathering swallows twitter in the skies. And finally, there is the music of the twittering of the swallows. Swallows are the small birds having pointed wings and a kind of split tail is there. So these are the swallows, and they are also twittering in the skies. So the word mourning, lament, the choir, the wailful choir is taking us towards death, which is again the major theme of this third stanza of Ode to Autumn. So Ode to Autumn is another beautiful poem by John Keats, and its importance can be understood by the fact that this is the last major poem by the poet before his death, untimely death. So in the first stanza, the autumn is described doing its duties, performing various duties. In the second stanza, it is described as a woman, again performing various duties. And in the third stanza, death prevails. The theme of the third stanza is death, and it is indicated symbolically with the gnats mooning, with the hedge crickets singing, with the swallows with the red breast whistling of the red breast, etc. So here we come to the end of a very beautiful poem by John Keats, that is Ode to Autumn. Thanks for watching.